In Candace Owens' latest YouTube video, she claims that they are lying about Tyler Robinson, the alleged Charlie Kirk shooter. I'm going to share several clips of what she's saying. She kind of reiterates what we covered over the weekend, that she claims that Tyler Robinson's family does not believe that Tyler did it. Now, we saw these messages. The government said, well, they sent him in. They saw the photos and it was him. And now Candace is saying, no, that's not true. Now, we're going to untangle these Christmas lights here, folks. It's going to all come out, and people can change their opinion with new evidence. I think there is always a rush to judgment, but in this case, the government hasn't provided any evidence. We haven't seen what the discovery is, so I think it's perfectly fine for the internet to ask questions, hold our leaders accountable, make sure they're doing the right thing. You wouldn't want an innocent person thrown in jail because, I don't know, the FBI is overly ambitious and the DOJ wants to indict somebody before all of the evidence comes in. Where's all the photos of him on campus? Where's the photos of or video of him getting on top of the roof? How come YouTube videos claim the bullet angle came from a 4 o'clock direction and not from a different one? I mean, these are honest questions we're asking, and this is our generation's version of the JFK assassination. It is. Unlike JFK, millions of people saw it happen live. The videos are super traumatic for people, and it's somebody who, Charlie Kirk, as a conservative commentator, was friends with a lot of people that are involved. Candace has several questions. This video right now, already at 1.6 million views in the first 7 hours. Absolutely insane. I'm going to play several clips of what she's saying. First, she's wanting to know, why is nobody that was Charlie Kirk's friend questioning this narrative about what went down?
I do want to assert here that I'm uncomfortable with the fact that despite all of the friends that Charlie Kirk made, all the schmoozing that he did, presidents, right, department heads, I am the only person that is publicly demanding further investigation into his assassination. Why? It's totally rubbing me the wrong way. Something's not right here. Even Turning Point USA, they're just like, we've accepted. Obviously, there are holes in this narrative, and they're just like, we're going to just keep up his show. What is going on? Actually.
Now, I understand the question, and as the judge said, we shared this video yesterday afternoon, they're going to try to give him the most fair trial you can give. That's what the judicial process is all about. Tyler Robinson, he's going to get a chance to respond, and this is partially why Candace felt the need to say he's not suicidal, to show, before any crazy things happen where, news reports come out that he offed himself and, whatever. It reads like fiction. It's super salacious, but as we know with the Epstein case, a lot of people don't believe he killed himself. So are they just willing to, do we live in a world where people can just get offed like that in prison as they await their trial? Apparently so. That is a possibility. So the question Candace is asking about why all of his friends and commentators haven't been demanding more questions, it could be some grand conspiracy, but it could also be the fact that it's icky. It's icky to talk about, and you just hope that the government's doing their job. I'm okay with Candace asking these questions, but I'm also okay with people saying, you know what, I'm not going to poke the bear here, right? I'm okay with either side. So Candace, makes bombshell claims that we covered over the weekend. She made it on her Instagram story saying, everything you're being told is a lie. And let's have a listen to her sort of further elaborate.
Of most interest to me, what I've learned is that his father does not believe, his parents don't believe that their son committed this crime. I was like, huh? Excuse me? That's a far cry from what the media has been telling us. Remember, the media presented this amazing story. The father realized his son was guilty, so it goes, right?
And I wouldn't blame the media here. I would blame Kash Patel, right? I would blame the FBI and the DOJ and the governor of Utah, right? Weren't they all sort of giving this narrative of, oh, well, with the help of their pastor, the father turned him in. And then Bill Ackerman, who's been beefing with Candace Owens, I hope I have these names right, he was offering $1 million reward for whoever was able to find the killer. So then questions were like, well, is the family trying to cash in? But it's like, come on, what family's going to sell out their son for $1 million, right? That would be the weirdest, new reality show. Get framed for $1 million. No, it's just not going to happen. Now, if he did the crime, the family member, hey, take the $1 million. Why not? If you want, but yet to be seen here.
And then he phoned over a friend to help him convince his son to turn himself in, because this guy, this mysterious guy was a friend and just had a connection with Tyler. And eventually they said, you've got to do the right thing here. We know this is you. That was the vibe. Certainly that's what the media was putting down for us to pick up. Well, I was told actually that it was kind of the opposite. That quote unquote family friend, who we learned was a former detective with the police force, at least, and so therefore has strong ties with the police station, informed the family. It was that in-between person that informed the family that Tyler had been identified as the shooter. He recognized him. He knows Tyler. He gives them the heads up. And then I'm told, and I believe this, that the way in which he got arrested, or rather turned himself in, was because that family friend slash neighbor slash former detective told him, hey, it's best for you to turn yourself in because there's only one of two options here. Either you turn yourself in and everything is peaceable, or the SWAT team could come in here and arrest you and things would get crazy.
And not only things could get crazy, but of course it could end with a shootout or some wild situation. So I agree here. If Tyler is innocent, if that's the scenario where he's completely framed and he's like, that's not me. Maybe I look identical, or I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, whatever the case may be. If that's true, I'd probably turn myself in also. But if that was true, I'd have all my family doing press conferences, sharing my innocence. The fact that the family hasn't publicly shared that they believe he's innocent is interesting, right?
So that's what happened. He went over to their house. Tyler was called over. Tyler was bewildered. He disputed the idea that he had murdered Charlie Kirk. In fact, according to my source, Tyler has never even stepped foot on UVU campus.
Now, this is one of the most interesting things for me, because in today's world, if they're lying and he's been on campus, there's cameras. It's a college campus. There probably is cameras on 80% of the public grounds, I would imagine. Literally on college campuses for decades, they've got those like blue lights, those safe lights where they have like an emergency phone number so you can walk home late at night. Each one of those is equipped with 360 cameras, right? I mean, this is like standard stuff. So you would think if he has been on the college, like for instance, I went to the University of Rhode Island, which I believe Candace actually went to as well. Candace, come on, you're following in my footsteps. We both live in Nashville. We're both crushing it on YouTube. Everyone's subscribing. Either way, we both have nice hair. Candace, I went to University of Rhode Island, I don't know, 20 years ago. Geez, it's been a while. And you could probably find thousands of photos of me in different spots, whatever. I just so I don't buy it. If he's never stepped foot on the campus, that would be so easy to prove if he's lying. And yet we haven't seen any photos of that.
Tyler, it turns out, which has already been revealed, was accepted into Utah State University, not Utah Valley. And that's actually interesting if you pause and reflect on that, because we didn't really consider how on earth Tyler became not just familiar with the layout of the campus, but familiar with the rooftop layout of UVU campus. So familiar that he knew exactly how to scale across the rooftops to duck down in order to take an almost impossible shot at a Charlie Kirk who was sitting beneath a tent. How did he know how to do all of that? Had he been there before? Did he knew where Charlie was going to be sitting and that he would have that shot from on top of the Losey Center? What? Right? I would actually, and I don't know, but I would imagine that even actual current UVU students don't know that possibility. Like they're not even that familiar with how to scale the rooftops and what shots they can take from it.
So I think it's interesting what Candace is sharing, but obviously this is all going to have to play out in court. Public opinion is one thing, but will this play out in court? Will this be part of Tyler's defense that he's never been there? Does he have an alibi? You know, in today's world, your digital footprint, you'd think in a lot of ways you'd be able to prove you were somewhere else, you know, depending on what car you drive or if you made any purchases somewhere else. Does he have an alibi? Or, you know, the most simplest thing is that, no, Tyler Robinson is the shooter. They got the guy. But something crazy could be going on, and Candace here, not afraid to talk about it. So interesting stuff indeed. Let's do this. Let's save a few stories for this afternoon here. I'll save my Jimmy Kimmel story for the afternoon. But this one's interesting. Mike Johnson, speaking of conspiracies, Mike Johnson is delaying the certifying of a lady here, Adelita Gravalda. Do I have that right? Adelita Gravalda. She won the Arizona special election last week. Actually, I believe it was in Charlie Kirk's hometown or his district. And Mike Johnson refusing or delaying certifying her because she would be the go-ahead vote to get the to get a vote on releasing the Epstein files. What?
I think that maybe it has to do with the fact that I am the 218th signer to push for a vote on the release of the Epstein files. And, you know, I don't know. So there's a lot of questions. I plan on going to Washington on Monday to caucus with other Democrats. Leader Jeffries has asked us to be there, and so I am going.
I mean, isn't this crazy? Isn't this absolutely insane that there are now enough people to sign and force the vote to get everyone on paper to release the Epstein files? Really put your money where your mouth is. And they're just delaying certifying her. She didn't win in a close margin. There doesn't need to be a recount. She won fair and square. And it's just wild. And this is why I want them to vote on everything. I want them to vote on universal health care. I want to know where every politician stands on these core issues, just so we know who the fuck we need to vote out of office. That's what I want. I'm sick and tired of, well, we don't have the numbers. We can't. In today's modern world, they should be voting literally every day on these important issues so we can see where the people that are supposed to be representing us stand. You know, I want to know who's taking corporate money, lobbyist money. I want to know all of that. We live in such a rich time where we can have so much transparency, and yet they're doing this shit right in front of us. So there might be a government shutdown tonight. This is in other news, but there might be a government shutdown tonight. Of course, J.D. Vance, who again has been like the press secretary. Why are they letting this guy talk so much? There isn't really a position. And by the way, he's looking very bloated. J.D. Vance here blaming the Democrats for what might be a government shutdown tonight.
Just had a very frank conversation with the Senate and House Democratic leadership. Look, the principle at stake here is very simple. We have disagreements about tax policy, but you don't shut that government down. We have disagreements about healthcare policy, but you don't shut the government down. You don't use your policy disagreements as leverage to not pay our troops, to not have essential services of government actually function. You don't say the fact that you disagree about a particular tax provision is an excuse for shutting down the people's government and all the essential services that come along with it. If you look at what Chuck Schumer has said in the past consistently, it's whatever our disagreements are, let's negotiate with them.
So he's blaming the Democrats here. Now, let's be honest. The president's Republican, the Senate and the Congress have a majority Republican lead, but they do need a handful of Democratic votes, and yet they are unwilling to negotiate on very simple terms. The Democrats essentially want to ensure that healthcare premiums won't skyrocket with upcoming laws that are going into place. And this is the only leverage that they have. Now, here we have Donald Trump back in 2013 saying that this is the president's fault when a shutdown happens.
Who's going to bear the brunt of the responsibility if indeed there is a shutdown of our government?
Well, if you say who gets fired, it always has to be the top. I mean, problems start from the top and they have to get solved from the top. And the president's the leader and he's got to get everybody in a room and he's got to lead. You know, the interesting thing is in 25 years and 50 years and 100 years from now, when the government is, they talk about the government shutdown, they're going to be talking about the president of the United States. Who was the president at that time?
And right now, that is Trump. He's the president, and he's the art of the deal, right? So get everyone together. But in fact, they did not want to negotiate. Now, Donald Trump, when Biden was president and they wanted to do a bipartisan border deal during the election season, Trump shut it down, right? So he knows how to play these games. Personally, I think the Democrats should not play ball, and they should let this government shutdown happen. Now, Trump might use that as a chance to lay off a whole bunch of people, but this is what the Democrats are asking for. As far as health insurance goes, they want to extend or make permanent the enhanced ACA tax credit subsidies that are set to expire at year's end. Democrats argue that without these, many people's premiums will skyrocket. That's the main thing, right? Medicare, they want to undo or prevent recent cuts to Medicaid. So they want to make sure that people aren't going to get royally effed. That's it. Now, you've got J.D. Vance saying, they want to make sure there's free health care for illegals. That's not the argument. They are trying to have you look in one direction as they rob you from another. The argument is trying to protect the American public from the big, beautiful bill and how it's robbing people, cutting all of these things like Medicare that's going to raise people's health insurance prices. So, folks, remember, if this shutdown happens tonight, take a screen grab of how much money you pay monthly or quarterly for your health care and come back in 3 or 6 months and see where that stands. You're about to pay a lot more money. So that's what they're fighting for. Whether they actually, stand by the shutdown or not, yet to be seen. And in other final crazy story today, Julie Turkowitz tweeted this. She was in Venezuela to document the response to a U.S. military buildup. The U.S. bombed boats, and Maduro says the real goal is regime change. Well, wrote this article for New York Times. In the interview, she says this. In an interview, one woman who identified herself as the wife of one of the dead men said that her husband was a fisherman with 4 children who left one day for work and never came back. These are the boats that Trump bombed, saying they were narco-terrorists with no due process. That's the world we're fighting to prevent. A world where we lose due process, you just get rounded up on the streets, you get sent to detention centers, ask questions later. That's the world we're trying to avoid. A world where you get big, beautiful tax credits, and the ultra-wealthy kind of, they pay less in taxes, and we go trillions of dollars further into debt as a country, and you got to pay for it somewhere. So you pay for it out of Social Security, you pay for it out of Medicaid and all these other things. So when J.D. Vance says, this is going to affect the troops' payments, first of all, they always pay the troops. But really, he's trying to place blame on the Democrats, and all they're trying to do is undo the harm that's going to be caused by the big, beautiful bill that was signed. Period. That's it. And I'm at the point where I'm like, you know what? Let's see. Let's see how high people's healthcare costs go. Let's see how bad it has to hurt. Because if your health coverage ends up costing you an extra $400 a month, most of the country can't even afford a $400 emergency payment. And now we're just going to light that on fire. This is the world we live in. These are the facts. We'll have to see how it all plays out. I'll be back this afternoon with more pop culture and politics. We'll see you then. I'm Dave, and this is The Rush.